Now, as we prepare to listen to the words of the gospel, together we proclaim.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told him about her. He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on them. When it was evening after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. He cured many who were sick with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak because they knew him. Rising very early before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him said, "Everyone is looking for you." He told them, "Let us go on to nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose have I come." So he went into their synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Do any of you feel like sheep today? Sheep without a shepherd? That's what I feel like I'm talking to. But in any case, just to let you know, there's not even a good rumor. You're sheep without a shepherd, and no indication of when it might happen that someone will be coming here. So we just keep on plugging along the best we can. In the gospel today, we see Jesus going to the house of Simon and John to visit them. And of course, Simon, who later became Peter, was the first pope. He was also married. They had married clergy in those days. And so Jesus went and he cured his mother-in-law, along with many other people that were present there. And this was something that Christ did on a regular basis, going from house to house and community to community, always healing the people, working miracles, helping to assist them in any of their needs. And we see once he had performed some miracles, and the evening went on, all of a sudden he got up and left, and he went off to a deserted place in the desert by himself to pray. And then when the other disciples came and they followed him and caught up with him, he prayed some more, and then he said, "Let's go on to the next village," he said, "because this is what I was called upon to do, to go to village, to work miracles, to pray, to cure the sick, to heal the blind, to help people." But he had to go away at times to pray to get a sort of insight into himself to stay on the right track. Some years ago, there was a book called Cry Tomorrow, written by Lillian Roth. She was a great actress and singer. She had the world in her hands, so to speak. She was acclaimed for her ability, great movie star, under great demand, had great admiration and great fan base. Everything was going along wonderful for her, and suddenly came to crash. She became a great alcoholic, lost everything, lost her jobs, no longer was wanted in the film industry. And it was all because of falling into alcoholism in such a bad way. She couldn't rebound completely. And we know that she was one who was on the top of the world, and then it just got away from her. There's Marian Anderson, the opera singer. She said that she knew when she was 5 years old that she had a beautiful voice and it could please people. So her whole life was dedicated to singing, using her voice to sing, to bring joy and happiness to other people, to make them happy. And this is how she lived her life, and was very, very successful, of course. We know that in the first reading, Job had everything in the world. He had money and fame and fortune and everything the world could buy, except he lost everything. The only thing he did not lose was his faith. He continued to persevere and had that strong faith. Paul, in the second reading, had a great deal of difficulty going out preaching to the Gentiles. It was not easy, combating all the obstacles that he faced from day to day, going from city to city, preaching to these people facing their problems, yet he too persevered. So we know as we go along and persevere with the gifts that God has given us, we need help and strength from the Lord to enable us to be stable and to continue to be firm in our faith. And we have to be like Christ, and sometimes step back and take a little time off and evaluate things and see how we're doing. It's something that's important for all of us to do. There was a story of, in the book Outdoor World by Barry Lopez. He wrote an article about, he used to visit his grandfather on the farm. And every time he went to his grandfather's farm, his grandfather every morning would go out for about a half hour and take a walk through the woods, go over to the ocean, look at the waves, come back home, and then sit down for breakfast. And one day Barry asked him what he was doing. He said, "Oh, just got out for a walk," he said. And then Barry started to do the same thing. And he felt pretty good about going out, touching the cold, damp earth, looking at the ocean. And as he grew up and continued to do this, he felt that it was a great need for him to keep his life in proper perspective. And this is what the grandfather had been doing, kind of pulling things together. We all know that as we go through life, we have many obligations for all of us. And it's not always easy. Sometimes we get tied up in things and things don't work out the way we want. We have to reevaluate things. I think it's important to follow the example of Christ himself, who often go off to the desert to pray after a busy day. But we too have to sort of go off and have a little quiet time and ask ourselves how we're doing. Because all of you, I'm sure, have obligations at home with the family. You have obligations at work where you're employed, with those you work with. You have obligations in the community if you're involved in different projects. You have obligations here at church with different committees and projects you may be involved with. And sometimes you can get overly burdened and take on too much. But we have to always reevaluate. It's good for us to go off and pray a little bit and take a little bit of quiet time to see if we're staying on the right track. That's why it's good once in a while to try to get a little weekend retreat, to go away for a weekend retreat if you have the opportunity, or at least a day of recollection. Or if you can't do that, at least during the course of the week to stop into a church somewhere, or even at home, spend about an hour just quietly in prayer and kind of thinking about how things are going, to keep things in perspective and what you're doing is the right thing and that you're able to keep up with it. Just a week from next Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. We're going to be entering the season of Lent. It's a good time to look within ourselves and reevaluate our own lives and all the things we're doing in preparation to serving God well in our life as we prepare for the Easter season. So it's good, I think, to stop and reflect and take the opportunities whenever they're there to have a little quiet time for yourself, just to ask yourself if everything's going the right way, that you're keeping things in the proper perspective and keeping things in order, that you're not taking on too much, you're not trying to do too much, but trying to do the best you can in everything that you take on. Certainly the Lord will answer your prayers, and this is important for all of us to keep this perspective alive in our own lives. We're going to be faithful to Almighty God in fulfilling our role as His good, faithful disciples and servants as we go through this journey of life.